Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Tuesday evening here with us on our YouTube channel. If you're new to the YouTube channel, you can visit our website, www.kabbalah.info, and find out more about the wisdom of Kabbalah. We also have 3 semesters of lessons here on this YouTube channel, which you can peruse through and see if you like the wisdom of Kabbalah. And if you feel like you'd like to study it, you can always join the KABU Academy from our website, kabbalah.info. In the interim, we're carrying on since we've started like every Tuesday. And today, the article that we're going to go through is called The Matter of the Prayer, concerning the prayer. Okay, if you have any questions, as usual, you can shoot them through, and we'll try to find answers together from this beautiful article concerning a prayer. Article number 10 from 1986. Our sages said in Masachet Tanit to love the Lord your God and to serve him. This is a prayer. You say this is a prayer, or is it only work? We should say with all your hearts, which is work in the heart. It is prayer. We should understand why prayer is regarded as work. Is it work to pray to the Creator to grant our wishes and requests? And if our sages said so, then they want to imply to us that there is a special meaning to the prayer, that it is work and not simply a prayer. Thus, what is the issue to which our sages imply? Indeed, it cannot be said that a person prays and asks to be given something if he has no desire for it. Only when a person feels he lacks something does he go and ask for that feeling related to the lack from the one who can fulfill it, since one asks only from one who has what he needs, and he also knows that he wants to give and to do good to others. Accordingly, when a person comes to pray and asks the Creator to satisfy his need, his prayer should be clear. That is, he should clearly know what he needs. That is, when he comes to ask from the Creator, he should picture himself speaking to the king, and the king can make him the happiest man in the world at once, because nothing is missing in the king's house. Thus, first one must carefully examine before the prayer, so he knows what he really needs. That if the king fulfills his lack, he will not need anything more and will be the most complete man in the world. According to what we've learned, that the purpose of creation is to do good to his creations, it follows that on the part of the Creator, there are no hindrances on bestowing delight and pleasure upon the creatures. This means that the reason why the Creator created in the creatures a lack called desire to receive was in order to satisfy the deficiency. As we explained, a lack is called a torment and affliction if he cannot satisfy his need. Therefore, all the lack that was created was with the intention to feel pleasure through it, since the lack is included in the intention to do good. This follows the rule that the craving for something gives the pleasure from satisfying it. It is known that even when we give to a person a meal fit for a king, if he has no desire for the meal, he cannot enjoy it. Therefore, when a person feels a lack and has no satisfaction for it, he comes to ask the Creator to grant him his wishes. In general, a person asks only for delight and pleasure. As we learned, on the part of the Creator, a person does not need to pray that the Creator will give him delight and pleasure, because his wish is to do good to his creations. Therefore, no one should be asked for anything if the giver wishes to give. It follows that before one goes to ask of the Creator to grant his wishes, he should first examine what he needs. This is what he should ask of the Creator. It seems as though the Creator does not give to a person without a person asking first. This means that because asking is not included in the purpose of creation, which is to do good to his creations, but is something that emerged later from the creature. For this reason, the creature must ask the Creator to give him. But we should not ask that the Creator will want to give delight and pleasure, because this is his wish, as said above, but his wish is to give delight and pleasure to the lower ones. However, we should know that since there was the matter of restriction called correction of creation, as it is known that it is so that the Creator's gift will not be unpleasantness called bread of shame, and since we attribute this correction to the lower one called Malchut the Ein Sof, who is called the Kli, a vessel that received the Apollite, and once this receiver received the abundance, a craving for equivalence of form awakened. This is why she did the Tzimtzum. He says in the study of the 10 Sefirot, in the inner reflection, the Apollite does not stop illuminating to the creatures for even a minute. And the whole matter of the restriction and the departure of the light that are mentioned here relate only to the impression and reception of the Kli. meaning the middle point. This means that although the upper light does not stop illuminating, the Kli still does not receive any of its illumination because it diminished itself. As said above, not receiving in order to receive does not relate to the purpose of creation. Rather, it is attributed to the correction of creation. It is an act of the lower one who strives for equivalence of form. It follows that the lower ones cannot receive delight and pleasure, although the upper one wants to give, because they need vessels of bestowal. And this pertains to the receiver and not to the giver. As we said, that the lower one, called Malkut Ein Sof, made the restriction. This is why this Kli relates to the lower one, meaning that the lower one will want to receive only if it can aim in order to bestow. For this reason, when a person comes to pray to the Creator to give him what he needs, we should say that he actually needs something that does not come from the purpose of creation. Rather, what he needs is something that comes from the lower ones. That is Malchut, who is called the lower one, because she receives abundance from the upper one, made a new Kli to receive abundance only in this new vessel called the vessel of bestowal. Therefore, all he should pray for is that the Creator will give him this vessel, because this is all he needs. However, here there's room for scrutiny. If the lower one must make this vessel because it pertains to the lower one, as we said above that Malkut did it, then why does a person not make this vessel by himself, but must ask the Creator to give him this vessel? However, we say about this vessel that the lower one must make it. We tell him that this is all he needs to ask from the Creator. But if this pertains to man's work, then why does he need to ask the Creator? The matter is clarified more in the words of our sages, who said, Rabbi Hanina said, everything is in the hands of the Creator except for fear of the Creator. As it is said, and now Israel, what does the Lord your God ask of you but fear? Rashi interprets everything is in the hands of the Creator as follows: righteous and wicked do not come by heaven. He has given this to man and has placed before him two ways, and he must choose fear of heaven. The matter of fear is explained in the Sulam commentary on the Zohar. Indeed, both the first fear and the second fear are not for his own benefit, but only out of fear that he will lessen bringing contentment to his Maker. According to the above, it means that fear is that a person must aim everything he does to be in order to bestow contentment upon the Creator. We asked, if this is so, and bestowal is something that man must do, why did we say that he should ask this from the Creator? Since it was said, everything is in the hands of the Creator, except for fear of the Creator. We should know that man cannot go against the nature with which he was created, since the Creator created man with a nature of wanting to receive. As we said, that it is impossible to enjoy the pleasures without a desire for the pleasure. And we learned that the essence of creation, regarded as existence from absence, is the will to receive. Hence, when one wants to do something in order to bestow, it is considered going against nature. This is why we cannot change our nature. Accordingly, if man cannot change nature, why did our sages say everything is in the hands of the Creator except for fear of the Creator? This implies that man does have the strength to change it. We can interpret that there are two things here. One, a desire regarded as only a potential that he wants to bestow. And two, that he also has the ability to carry out his thought in actual fact. Therefore, we should interpret that the demand from man to choose to walk in ways of bestowal, he should know that this is the key to receive the purpose of creation, to receive the delight and pleasure. And if he hasn't these vessels, he will remain in darkness without light. Once he knows this in complete certainty and begins to intend to carry out acts of bestowal, he sees that he cannot go against nature. Here comes the time of prayer, and not before, since there is no such thing as asking for urgent help, asking for vessels of bestowal, which are vessels in which he can receive life, and without which he is regarded as dead. As our sages said, the wicked in their lives are called dead. This is because, by nature, man asks for help only when he cannot obtain what he wants by himself. Since prior to this, there is the matter of shame, as our sages said about the verse, "Chrome gorges for the sons of men." When man needs people, his face changes to be as chrome. What is chrome? There's a bird in the cities near the sea whose name is chrome. When the sun shines on it, it turns into several colors. It is known that the corporeal nature that we were given in such that through it we learn spiritual matters. Therefore, before one knows that he cannot obtain the vessels of bestowal by himself, he does not ask the Creator to give them to him. It follows that he does not have a real desire for the Creator to answer his prayer. For this reason, one must work to obtain the vessels of bestowal by himself. And after all the work that he has put into it without obtaining it, begins the real prayer from the bottom of the heart. At that time, he can receive help from above. As our sages said, he who comes to purify is aided. But since this prayer is against nature, since man was created with a desire to receive, which is self-love, how can he pray to the Creator to give him the force of bestowal while all the organs oppose this desire? This is why this work is called a prayer, meaning he must make great efforts to be able to pray to the Creator to give him the force of bestowal and annul man's force of reception. This is why our sages said, "And you shall work," is prayer. The work in the heart. By this, we will understand why they refer to prayer as work in the heart. It is because one must work a lot on himself to cancel self-love and assume the work of obtaining vessels of bestowal. It follows that on the desire to have vessels of bestowal, he must work with himself to want to pray, to be given the force of bestowal. Rightio. That's the article. Let's check it out. We've got one question, have we? Metan's asking, I want to achieve something, but in order to achieve that thing, it is necessary to reach a few things that I do not want. How can I do the things I don't want so that I can achieve the things I want? Well, that's not a really correct question. How can I do things I don't want so that I can achieve the things I want to achieve something, but in order to achieve that thing, it is necessary to reach a few things that I do not want. A few things along the way, right? So you have to do a few things along the way to get to the goal. How can I do the things I don't want so that I can achieve the things I want? Well, by understanding, you have to do everything on the path. Now, you got to be a bit smart here. I want to lose weight. Okay? So I have to make sure I eat clean, I work out, and I go do things the right way. Is it pleasurable for me to give up on chocolate? Certainly not. Okay? However, I do. Okay, despite the fact that I don't want to do it. I don't like restricting myself. I don't like restricting my food. In order to get to a desirable state, I understand I have to give it up. You have to bring some kind of an understanding and some kind of an importance to the end goal if you want to overcome obstacles. So you have to depict the end goal as something great and desirable so that the obstacles along the way can be overcome. And if you can't overcome them on your own, you're going to need friends. They're like a diet group or something. Right? So people who want to give up bad habits, they've got clubs, don't they? So if you want to achieve spirituality, you better join the club then, haven't you? That's that. Any other questions? I don't think that we don't have any other questions. We've got one more. How come I don't see it here? Okay, you're writing it. Okay. Ingrid's asking, does corporeality help or disrupt a form of prayer? I think in life, everything is a help because everything was created in order to get to the purpose of life. So everything that happens to us is directed towards that purpose. So I can't really say, no matter what happens, no matter how horrible it may appear to us, we can't really say we can't really say it's bad. Do things disrupt us? They do, but the disturbances are tools which I need to use to leverage my spiritual growth. Now, when we're looking at life, we look at all these obstacles, disturbances in life, all these disruptions, corporeality, all kinds of things, as some kind of, as if it's not related to our spiritual path. So we want to cut them off, but that's not really a smart way of going about it because we can't really cut off corporeality. We are in corporeality. We live in corporeality. So we exist in a world with everybody else. So we can't cut it off. But what we need to do is, as we live life, and if we have the purpose of goal set in front of us, which is to attain a higher level of consciousness, to attain the attributes of the Creator, love and bestowal, then obviously the things that are coming to me as obstacles and disturbances or all kinds of dramas and problems are points where I need to think and evaluate the situation so I can make some kind of overcoming. I can strengthen myself or I can add understanding to my path, that kind of stuff. I can't just, turn my back to life. So everything in corporeality should also be a help if I use it correctly. Also, with corporeality too, for example, as we advance in spirituality, what happens? We begin to give more importance to spirituality, don't we? And then we cut back on irrelevant things or childish things, or we cut back on corporeal things that we now feel that they're not necessary for us. Okay. Before we were chasing all kinds of stuff, right before spirituality. And then we got into spirituality and all of a sudden we're like, well, you know what? I don't need this. I don't need that. I don't need to do this and so on. And all of a sudden now we've got a really minimalistic life, don't we? It's like a very minimal. I've got to go out and work, pay the bills, pay the rent, pay the mortgage, I don't know, pay the fuel, whatever, pay for the food. Take care of the family, take care of my health, and that's it. But beyond that, I'm like, I'm not really interested in going beyond that, because the more I start going beyond that, I start getting myself into all kinds of trouble. You see what I mean? So life now becomes for us something really, or at the corporeal level anyway, it becomes something very basic. I look at my life and I think, what, this is how I grew up. This is a normal life. So I'm happy with this life. This is me. Okay. This is how I grew up in the family. And this is how I'm maintaining my family. But on top of that, everything else is devoted to spirituality. So that's the better way to approach things. Isoke is asking, in the 10, we want to build of ourselves a pipeline for the force of bestowal to operate through. We get disturbances to strengthen our bond. How can we be more aware of what we need to restrict? What I would do, obviously what I would do according to the recommendations of the Kabbalists, right, is to increase the importance of spirituality. When you increase the importance of one thing, it becomes more obvious what you can, restrict or get rid of from your life. Okay, that becomes more obvious. If you start to look at your life and say, you know what, I'm going to restrict that, I'm not going to do that, and so on and so on and so on, you're going to end up in a mess and you're going to explode. First of all, we don't have to restrict anything, really. You don't have to. If you want to go out, have fun, please do so. It is not against spirituality. If you want to have a happy life, living in a certain way, you can do that. It's not against the wisdom of Kabbalah. It's not against spirituality, and it's not a problem. So in the wisdom of Kabbalah, when we have desires, we satisfy them. We're not obviously we're not doing anything illegal, okay? But we satisfy them. What can you do? Because all of these things are like hormonal. Okay, these are hormones moving, and there's some, and then you can't fight them. It's a losing battle. So the important thing to do is add spirituality to my current life. Okay, so I have a current life, and on top of that, now I want to add spirituality. Okay, and through my spiritual work, the more I increase the importance of spirituality, then I can say, you know what, I don't want to do this, you know what, I don't want to do that, and so on. Why? Because now you're not restricting, you're consciously making a decision not to do something because spirituality has now become more important. All right? So that's the whole idea, and that's the whole trick. You see, in the outside world, in religions, they always tell you what to do and what not to do. All right? So in the wisdom of Kabbalah, we can't have that because we're a desiring machine, and it's like a non-stop Action Jackson desire machine working. So you can't really stop yourself from desiring things. And having desires is not a problem. It's not a bad thing. It's nothing bad about it. So the important thing, though, is to grow up. And if you want to grow up spiritually, as you study spirituality, you can let go of things. Just like as kids, when we're growing up, we can let go of our teddy bear. Okay, so we all had a teddy bear. It felt really nice, but I don't think any of us are going to bed with a teddy bear nowadays. Okay, so all right, So that's how it is. I don't know if your partner is like a teddy bear, that's a different question. Okay, but that's just how it is. All right. So if you've got someone cuddly, which is quite nice, and that's not a problem either. But we let go of toys. And with spirituality coming into our life, we become mature. So we're happy to let go of things which before we gave importance to, but now we don't feel like they're more important. And that's the whole idea. You don't feel like it's important anymore, so you can let them go instead of trying to restrict them. Okay. All right. ZK. Who's ZK? Can one pray for oneself? Do corporeal desires reflect spiritual desires? And do they support our spiritual growth? Well, look, can one pray for oneself? You can pray for yourself if you're asking for the right thing. Okay. Other than that, it's not a good idea. Okay. The other thing is, If you can pray for the friends, that's even better. But the prayer, when you're doing a prayer for specifically for yourself, it should be in order to correct a situation between you and others, which is not allowing you, not permitting you to connect. All right. So if I see a disturbance in me, which is preventing me from connecting with somebody, then I can ask the Creator for help to overcome that so that I can connect with this person. Because through the connection and the act of love and bestowal, we rise to the next level. Okay, so that's okay. Other than that, not so okay. All right, other than those circumstances, it's not so okay. It's better to pray for the friends. Do corporeal desires reflect spiritual desires? They don't. Corporeality and spirituality are completely two different planes completely. Do they support our spiritual growth? Corporeal desires, no, they won't support our spiritual growth. Spirituality means loving others, and the act of loving others is bestowing to others. That's what spirituality is. Corporeality is me wanting things for me. Okay, so it's completely two different things completely. Okay, so they won't support each other. Having said that, like I said, you don't have to get rid of your corporeal desires. When we start studying spirituality, we just add spirituality. Okay, you can also do this in life as well. If you want to achieve something, but to achieve something, you feel like you have to give up on things, right? Like with the diet example I gave. Okay, so let's say you need to lose weight. And instead of telling yourself, okay, don't eat this, don't eat this, don't eat this, don't say don't eat this. Tell yourself the things you should eat first, okay, which are the healthy stuff. And if you have room after you eat all that healthy stuff, well, you can still get a bite of your chocolate, let's say. But if you tell yourself you're going to eat the good stuff first, then you're rarely going to have food. You're rarely going to have room in your belly for extra stuff. You see what I mean? So you're kind of like tricking yourself. So yeah, I'm going to have a dessert, but first I'm going to have this meal. Okay, so after the meal, I am so full, I'm probably not going to have that dessert. Or if I do, it's not going to be a big piece. So essentially, I've just played a little trick on myself. And that's it. Okay, so spirituality is, when you're adding something new like spirituality to your life as well, doesn't mean you should stop doing things. It means you should add spirituality to your life and just increase its importance in your life. You just said we satisfy our desires, but can we pray to the Creator to help us fulfill these desires? Well, if you're asked to fulfill corporeal desires, you can ask for the Creator for anything. Okay, you can. Okay, at the end of the day, we can ask for whatever we want. But the whole essence of the article is, by working amongst ourselves to come to the attribute of bestowal, what we should come to is through the work, through our spiritual work in the group with the friends, we should come to realize that we cannot bestow. Okay, because we are a desire to receive. Now, a prayer, as we read in the article, is the work in the heart. So whatever I want in my heart, that's the prayer. So if in your heart you want, I don't know, something corporeal, that's a prayer as well. Is it the right prayer? Well, that's a question mark. Okay, that's the question mark. A right prayer is what the Creator wants to give us and what I want to get from the Creator, them being the same and one thing. Okay, so that's the right, correct prayer. And the thing is, because we're a desire to receive and not a desire to bestow, our work should bring us to realize that if we work in order to bestow, we cannot do it. So here, what we need is something they call hishtokikut. a big yearning, right? So, like a real lust for the Creator. Okay. And that's called a prayer. So a prayer isn't really, asking from the Creator something with my lips and mouth and all kinds of other things. It's really the work we do and the outcome of the work. That's the prayer. Okay, otherwise, we'd be praying like religious people, wouldn't we? But spirituality is inner work. So a prayer should be this conclusion at every degree where I've clarified what I need. And that need should be going one level up and closer to the Creator. So this is why we can always go one level up, one level up. We can't jump, above other steps. So we're always like in this mode of going from, lower level to the next one, and then to the next one, and then to the next one. So, Isuke is asking, in our interactions in the 10, during meetings and gatherings, or maybe even in our thoughts of the friends, are we performing any restrictions? No. I mean, restriction is something, it's really, restriction is a spiritual state. Okay, it's really not a corporeal state. But because when we start the wisdom of Kabbalah, we're not in spirituality, we're in corporeality, then sometimes we talk about restricting ourselves. But restricting ourselves, like I said, can only be really, it's like a miracle from above. Okay, in our life, the only way we can go about it is to make something more important than something else. Right? This is why we're always working on increasing the importance of spirituality. So if I make it the most important thing in my life, then, the other things in life will be less relevant. Okay? But for example, let's say we've got a Tuesday night lesson here, right? All of us together. So every Tuesday night, I'm giving this lesson, right? For me, I've got to restrict every Tuesday night, okay? Because I've got a program on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Every night I've got something. So why is that restricting? Well, it's restricting, kind of restricting, because it's kind of because, and also it's not, because spirituality is more important. So I'm happy to give up on other stuff. Okay, so that's why I don't call it restriction. Restriction really happens in a spiritual level when you really want to use the desire. Right? You really have this desire and you just want to go for it. Okay. But on the other hand, you have an understanding that if you use this desire now for your self-benefit, you're going to be further away from the Creator. All right. So everything comes in spirituality as a cost. And then you evaluate, well, if I restrict this, I'll be closer to the Creator. If I don't restrict this, I'll be further away from the Creator. So you start to make calculations with respect to the attribute of the love of Creator and to bestow to the Creator. So your deal becomes, something between you and the Creator. And the restriction really works there. The restriction is an ability that the Creator bestows to a person. We essentially, what can we restrict? What can we really restrict? Nothing really. This is why at the corporeal level, it's all about making things more important for us rather than restricting desires. In a virtual 10, what is the best way to bestow to friends outside of attending meetings? In a virtual 10, the best way to bestow to the friends outside of attending meetings, they're the lessons, right? So the most important thing for us is to come to the lessons. So that's the first thing. And that's the minimum thing, really. If I want to be a good friend, I need to show the friends a good example. Well, I want to be a good friend. So I want to show them that I'm a good example. So I'm in the lessons. I'm trying to connect with the friends. I'm always trying to treat the friends nicely, respectfully, lovingly. I want to kind of like show them all the time that I want to connect with them, via the acts and the attributes of love and bestowal. And the more I become a good example, the more I work on being a good example, then that now turns into my second nature. Okay, because the more I'm trying to treat the friends with love, bestowal, understanding, then, I get used to approaching people with this kind of an attitude. So I get used to it, and then it becomes my second nature. And all of a sudden, you feel like you're changing because your perspective is changing. Yeah. So, and we can always pray for the friends. We don't have to meet them every time to bestow to them. We can, what can we do outside? We can pray for the friends, like I said. And that's basically it. The rest is like inner work. As you can see, we don't have ceremonies. We don't have rituals and things that we do, because spirituality is our inner work. So if you want to bestow to the friend, being a good example, praying for the friend, coming to the lessons, showing them the importance of the goal, giving them a good mood, okay? That kind of stuff is important. If you're also taking part in dissemination, that's good as well, because that's bestowing to other people so that they can rise as well. They can grow up spiritually as well. Okay. Are we all good? Yeah? Okay, so that's it with the questions. All right. So let's sum it up then. Okay. Let's just sum it up. Concerning a prayer. How are we going to come to a prayer? Let's just do a little summary. When we start the wisdom of Kabbalah, the first thing we study is nature, and also our nature as well. And so that's the first thing we're looking at. What we want to attain and the current position we're in. Okay. So in order to get from A to B or A to Z, let's say, I've got steps in between, right? B, C, D, E, F, and so on. So all the way. So what I want to do is, as I learn about myself and as I learn about the system that we're in, and as we learn about the creator, what we're trying to do is grow ourselves up. Okay, with our spiritual work, we're trying to raise ourselves, grow ourselves. And the way we do that is, instead of thinking about ourselves like little children do all the time, okay, what we want to do is get out of ourselves and start thinking about other people, okay, which is the attribute of bestowal. So as we are in this process, we're like kind of in a grinder, okay? It's like being, it's like grinding coffee beans. Initially, you put them in the grinder and they're all coarse, right? They're all coarse, chubby, and so on. But we're working on them. So the work should be grinding us. And at the end of the day, we've got this pure, nice, soft coffee, which we can use to make a good cup of coffee. All right. So the work should also be grinding us. It should be getting rid of our coarseness. Okay, our bad stuff, the bad edges. It should kind of like smooth us out, sandpaper us out. So obviously that's a process of going up and down all the time, because we're going through emotional fluctuations as we try to attain a nature which is against our nature, because our nature is loving ourselves. Okay, and the creator's nature is loving others. So trying to move from loving myself to loving others is like an impossible job, because it is completely not in our nature. But as we study, we begin to understand what the right way to exist is. And that is through good connections. So on the one hand, I'm left with a dilemma. I'm left with a dilemma that I can't change my egoistic nature, but I understand I need to get to another nature, love and bestowal, and I begin to feel its necessity. And I begin to feel that, yeah, this is the important thing. Yeah, this is how things should be, right? But my nature is always opposing that new understanding. So here, this split between what I am and what I need to be allows me to turn to the Creator. Okay? Because I come to the understanding that I can't change myself. Only the Creator can. And now I need help. So all of these emotions that are brewing up inside of us should bring us to this conclusion called a complete prayer. That I need the ability to bestow. All righty? All good. All right. So this is why prayer for us in the wisdom of Kabbalah is not a lip service. It's got to come out of us. It's got to be like my conclusion of all the efforts I've put into this. And the outcome should be a true cry out, saying that I need to change, I want to change, I can't do this, you got to do it for me. And that is why a person needs to connect with the Creator, because he can't do it on himself. Right? And that change is called a miracle. Why? Because it requires changing nature. And that's the miracle. And this is why a person needs the Creator. All righty. So it's been a fun and nice 45 minutes. I hope you guys had a good time as well as I did. Hopefully, if all goes well, God willing, we'll see you guys next week. All the best.